God.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Shalom.
Shalom.
I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Ba'Hashem. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone, by the elders of Yasharallah, and the sincere salutation to Yawakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Aquaf, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Ba'Hashem is in the name. Rakah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Aquaf is sisters. Shalom means peace, and Yasharallah is Israel, in ancient Paleo-Hebrew. And as you can see from the title of the lesson, is prophecy in motion. All right, because we're living in the time of prophecy. We're living in the time where the Lord told us certain things when we were riding camels, drinking wine out of lambskin, and now we're living those things that the Lord told us about thousands of years before they actually played out. And that's why prophecy in motion is so powerful, because one of the ways the Lord shows forth power is to exercise his power over time, to be able to tell you about things that are going to happen before it actually happens. Namely the MOTB. You know, when you deal with the sea hill, which a lot of even though they understand that they're Israelites, they can't comprehend the whole vision that goes into prophecy. And we're living in that time where the Lord is conjuring up his vision and making it play out in reality. Anything y'all brothers got? You got it.
This is Ezekiel chapter 12 and verse 28. Therefore say unto them, thus saith the Lord power, there shall none of my words be prolonged any more, but the word which I have spoken shall be done, saith the Lord power. And that's what you're seeing, man. Prophecy in motion. These things are being declared and they're playing out right in front of our face, man. Building our faith, you know.
Right. Right. And that's why the watchman is set up through the Spirit to declare the vision. Because again, we were talking about that on Highways and Hedges last night. Every Israelite wasn't necessarily a watchman. The Lord had to give particular men the vision to see where we were headed, where we were going. We know we Israelites, but then the Lord raised up certain men to say, look, this is the vision. This is where we headed. And Lord, when we be a part of that number, we understand the journey. We understand the will of the Lord, and we understand that it's going to play out in our reality. That's why it's not a time of feasting and festivals and joyfulness. It's a time of mourning, because the Lord's going to exercise vengeance and wrath. And when you understand that as a watchman, you move a different way.
Got one for you.
Yep.
So Isaiah 42 and verse 9. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them.
You holding that? The spirit.
Yeah, it's the spirit.
Call him again.
It's Isaiah 42 and 9. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them.
Oh, can I say, you consider certain things, let's say war, that's an extreme. It starts with a declaration, right? From the extreme of nations bumping heads to two niggas in a fist fight, right? There's parameters. Someone might say, you say that again. Or,
Right.
like, cross that line in his own.
Right.
See? So that's the same with Yahweh from outside. He spoke everything that you see into existence, and it pretty much has a head, it's a climax to prophecy.
And that's spiritual too, because you think about, you got these people in this world that deal with the New Age doctrine, where they think they can manifest themselves out of, the mind of the Lord is ultimate. So whatever you think you can will yourself to do, the Lord he's in control of all of it. Because Esau think he think he in control.
Right.
He think his plan is his plan, and it's not. It's the Lord exercising his power through him. The brother did a lesson on that. We all tools. The Lord is waging warfare. We all tools in that motion picture, so to speak.
Right. If I can get this,
Yep.
but this is what the Lord said. This is Psalms 55 and 22. Cast thy burdens upon Yahweh, and he shall sustain thee. he should never suffer the righteous to be moved. Why would the Lord say, cast thy burdens upon him? Because everything comes from the Lord, man. Everything that happens in earth comes from the Lord. So when we around here trying to fix a situation, whether it may be you might be back and forth with the manager, or your real, or family members, the only thing we can do is pray to the Lord about it and wait and watch the Lord work, man. Because everything comes from the Lord. The burdens of what in this, and what's that? Let me get this. In Psalms 65, this Psalm 65 in verse 5 it reads, by terrible things and righteousness would thou answer us. The Lord said he is not for the hopeful elect continually. So everything that we deal with in our everyday life that we consider burdens, that's the test of the Lord, man. So they say cast thy burdens upon the Lord. Hey, who sent them down? What would Job say? If we get some good from the Lord, shall we not receive the bad too? Because it all comes from the same place.
The balance of the Lord.
It's the balance.
You're going to receive droughts, you're going to receive rain. See?
And the
Oh,
drought,
sun.
you appreciate the rain.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, beautiful point. You have nighttime, you have day, which is really a fight, which they consider the works of the Lord, that 2 and 2. Right, you can sit down, you can stand up, you can spit, you can swallow, you can give, you can take.
Man,
So that shows you that your help out sitting on the side
man.
is omnipotent. There's
Right.
nothing, yeah, his spirit fills every aspect of existence. And hey, and to understand that, that puts you in a class, man, right? It's an honor to be able to expound on the intents, purposes, and plans of your help out sitting on the side.
And that's
The master plan,
spiritual.
the master
Man.
plan.
Because the average Israelite didn't have the whole vision.
Right, yeah, yeah.
You think about how we have access to the scriptures now. You had certain towns that may have had Isaiah. They didn't have the collection. Then the understanding. That's a whole nother. So if the Lord was supping with a man, it was like, you know it was the Lord.
Right.
Like the book of Samuel, the vision was scarce.
Right.
Because everybody knew they was Israelites at that point.
Right.
But then you had, well, what direction are we headed? What's the temperature in the room?
Right.
That was the prophets. They would like at the
Prophets.
month. They would have, when they pulled up, it was like, y'all all fucking up.
Right.
Because they in Shiloh, they in Shechem. They thinking about, but the prophets were that guiding line. Where are we? In the Lord's plan.
Right.
We know we're the children of the Lord. But how he feel about us? That's prophecy and more. And we're counting down the days to that final time where the Lord was like, vengeance, then mercy.
That vision, man. Vision. Where there is no vision, the people perish.
Yep.
You got it.
Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he.
Because what were the prophets called before they were called?
Seals.
Exactly, because they saw they were Israelites. Because the average Israelite, it was just, we were talking about that. It was just they were making tending to their gardens. They looking at their daughters like, man, I gotta find a good mate. They looking at their sons like, I gotta marry to this house. They wasn't thinking about what Jeremiah meant in the 51st chapter, and it wasn't the 51st chapter.
Right.
You had to just read the whole scroll to find out what was going on. It was because the elder brought that out. It's not for a low level thinking. It's not for the casual Israelite. Because in the ancient world, you had to be initiated. And that can only come through the Spirit of the Lord.
Yeah, the prophets play a major role in the Israelites, in their coming and going, right? Their gains, their losses. The Lord sent the prophets to channel their future, their fate, their destiny. And that goes back to, I think you briefly mentioned in 1 Kings 3, right? At that time, there was no open vision, right? That vision goes into the prophecy.
First Samuel 3 and 1, you talking about?
Yeah, 1 Samuel, okay, yeah, kind of, that's it, 1 Samuel 3 and 1. Matter of fact,
I got it.
you got that, let's get that, somebody hold Psalms 74.
This
Oh, man, you got that.
1 Samuel chapter 3 and verse 1. And the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision.
Right, there was no open vision, and that proves that this word is not going to always be readily available. Just like the rain, it doesn't rain constantly all day, every day.
Right.
That's why we read Isaiah the 55th chapter. The word is referred to as rain and snow that descends upon the planet Earth. So the word is precious. Hey, for an example, when you consider, let's say a museum, they might have an ancient relic or artifact, and it might be on display for a moment, and they take it off the showroom floor, or a collector's item, a special edition car, watch, or whatnot, where you can equate that to the word. Right? This is a precious commodity. Why? Because it actually breathes life and immortality. Now let's get that Psalm 74, I believe in 9.
God. The book of Psalms, chapter 74, verse 9, it reads, "We see not our signs. There is no more any prophet. There is there among us, it's like neither is there among us any that know of how long.
Yep, read that again.
We see not our signs.
But we see not our signs. Why? Well,
There is no any prophets."
there's no more any prophets. So pretty much Israel is lost without the prophet, which is nothing more than an extension of Yahweh Shah. As the brother read, but there's no vision, the people perish. So you see the importance of having the ability to peer out into the future, foresight. Oh, it tells you that in Proverbs the 22nd chapter. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. Word up.
God, it says, "Neither is there any among us that know of how long."
Right, that knoweth how long. Now you have men on the scene that can tell you that this is not a perpetual state. That's comfort that comes with that, man. Right? You don't know where your destiny lies. Hey, because before being exposed to this information, you thought that this was the be-all, end-all. You could throw all of us in that category. We didn't see past America. We put all our stock, our energy, our sources into this place. Until the word of the Lord came on. What's that? We went into that yesterday. Right, yeah, the song, the word of the Lord, which is prophecy, man. Come on, up.
Book of 2 Ezra, chapter 1, verse 38. "And now, brother, behold what glory, and see the people that come from the east, unto whom I will give for leaders."
Right, and that proves right there that everybody, this is not a free fall. Everybody's on the same level. And it seems like you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the main entities that's not able to digest this concept. Yet, you know the boundaries when concerning the so-called white man.
Right.
A nigga terrorize his own neighborhood, steal your FedEx package from the front porch. But the nigga won't go rob the bank. He won't go.
Yeah, you won't go to the suburb where
Right.
somebody said.
I mean, like, you niggas, it's fascinating to see a nigga, man. in another habitat. Look, just go hit the bank.
Right.
Now, we not promoting. But I'm saying, though, nigga, leave us alone. But again, you're not going to have a nigga to do that. They know their boundaries. They know not to cross Esau.
Right.
Read that again up.
God, it says, "And now, brother, behold what glory, and see the people that come from the east, unto whom I will give for leaders."
Right, so the Lord said he would set up leaders in Israel. That in itself has proven to be a stumbling block to Jacob. They're not willing to yield or hearken, submit to a form of authority, especially from their own people. And you can see the signs behind it. For an example, two people locked up, then there's someone in jail trying to give you advice. Well, you're going to come to the conclusion, hold up, both of us locked up, man. Both of us for those situations. Who are you?
Jailhouse lawyer.
Yeah, jailhouse lawyer, yeah. So that's how Jake look at us. It's understandable.
Right.
Like, who are you? Where's your church? Right? They ask you that. Where you standing on?
Right.
Show us something to validate your authority. But how about outside the bread and move? He sent the poor, man.
Right.
So you have to be in a certain spirit to hearken to someone who have not strength, resources.
Right.
See?
The lowly.
Yeah, the lowly.
Real quick, this Amos 2:11, and I raised up of your sons for prophets, and of your young men for Nazarites.
Right.
Is it not even
Right,
thus?
that's the temple. When you read this with understanding through spiritual lenses, if you will, in its perfection, that precept is fulfilled. You're witnessing that. The Lord raised up, that's the temple. The house of David being erected, which is cemented by prophets. The act of prophesying is an indicator that Yahweh made good on the temple being rebuilt. That's why that word raised is in the same book. Read that again.
Amos 2:11, and I raised up of your sons
See?
for prophets, and of your young men for Nazarites. Is it not even thus, O ye children of Yashar'Allah, saith the Lord?
Right. So that's how the Lord will visit Israel with the prophets, and that's not a new formula. Right? The Lord has always sent forth the prophets to channel, if you will, his energy to the planet Earth. Cool.
It's Hebrews 1:1. Yahweh Shai, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets.
See that? By the prophets, man. That's how the Lord speaks. That's how the Lord communicates. This is how the Lord exhibit, if you will, his requirements, his commands, what he wants from you, right? The restrictions, what's off limits, is all on display by way of the prophets. See?
And that's a very naive concept to think that just because you're an Israelite, it qualifies you to play that role.
Yeah.
That was gifted. Like Korah. They was in the they thought because I'm an Israelite,
Right,
I could be Moses.
Right.
Yep.
It ain't necessarily set up like that. You're an Israelite, but then there's the watchmen, there's the prophets, there's the ones that are set up to say what the Lord is about to do and when he's about to do it. And those are the men that are set up through the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shah, beginning with our apostles. If you can receive.
I got two precepts for you.
Yep.
This is Hosea 12:10. It says, I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. And this is Jeremiah chapter 3, going to the point that you were making about how these men are special tailored. You know, the prophets of the Lord are special tailored spirits from the house of Israel. This is Jeremiah 3:15. And I will give you pastors according to mine heart, who shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. You know, and those prophets that are speaking the words of Yahweh Shai are according to the Lord's heart. Those special tailored spirits that were chosen from the foundation of the world to carry this message from generation in and generation out. You know, no matter what the captivity, no matter what the circumstance, they're going to carry this testimony, you know, and carry the word of Yahweh Shai to the end of time.
Hey, get Isaiah 54 and 17.
So somebody had to make known the vision of the Lord. And just being an Israelite don't necessarily qualify you.
Right.
Jeremiah tried to get up out of that jam real quick. He was like, and the Lord was like, nah, I chose you. You gotta do what I told you to do.
Jonah too.
Right.
Yep.
I chose you. You gotta present that message. The Lord did that in these last days. And just like in the ancient world, it wasn't perceived, it wasn't accepted. The prophets would never accepted men amongst Israel. Because when they entered the scene, it was like, whatever y'all doing, y'all fucking up. Excuse my French. And it's either you gonna repent or the Lord gonna raise this nation up and come take y'all up out of here.
Let me read that real quick.
Yep.
This is 2 Timothy 2, because the Lord ain't dealing with all Israelites. He grab him, get him. I want him, get him. Skip those three, get him behind. This is 2 Timothy 2 and 20. But in a great house was being raised up, tabernacle of David. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor, and some to dishonor. If a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use, and prayer unto every good work. So it's the Lord got pickings. He get to pick and choose. So read that.
If I may say this on
You
that,
got it.
you know, and the Lord picked and chose special spirits for that office, because the office of a prophet is not a light office.
Right.
The prophet, they oftentimes came with a message of repentance, which our people don't want to do, and they came with, like it says in Jeremiah 28:8, a war, evil, and pestilence.
Right.
And our people, that's the last thing they're trying to hear is of anything that's going to rebuke them or try to sway them from the way that they're going already. They want to hear that the captivity they're in is the kingdom of heaven,
Right.
and they're going to be able to build there, prosper there, build a family, empire there. Don't tell me about the Lord got something else better for us. I ain't trying to wait for that.
And
Yeah.
because that prosperity doctrine isn't just reserved to this kingdom. They was in Babylon thinking about prosperity doctrine.
Right.
Man, we ain't gotta go back to, we could just, Egypt. They was like, hey,
Egypt, yeah.
let's go back to the leaks. We had guaranteed, we knew
Right.
we had a 9 to 5,
Yeah.
but we knew what we was getting.
You know what's crazy too, because when Cyrus, Darius that Jake go back and rebuild the walls, the
Yeah.
temple, Jake was like, okay, well, I hope we back. But then 7 AD happened. That's prosperity. I was like, we go back and build. Yeah, that prosperity energy was
Because you gotta build correctly.
yeah.
Jake always wanted to do their own thing, and the
Yeah.
Lord was like, in the process of time, I'm gonna show y'all what y'all will get y'all. Now we're on the other side of the earth with cell phones and jeans and sneakers, Crocs in sports mode,
Right.
losing, straight losers. And it was like the Lord's like, I'm gonna leave y'all to y'all own counsel.
Right.
Y'all think y'all know better? Let's find out. And then the prophets come into the scene to let them check the temperature.
Right.
The Lord like, look, Babylon, look, 70 years. Ride this one out. This ain't the old Babylon. Now we hastening the day. You got it right.
I was gonna say, dealing with those two men of Israel, you got the prophet, then you got those that just husband.
Right?
This is Romans 10:1. Brother, my heart desire and prayer to power for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, of the Lord, but not according to knowledge. But they be ignorant of God's righteousness.
Oh, can I say too? The will of the Lord, that's what they're ignorant to.
Right.
It's perfect will.
Right.
They're ignorant to the fact that the Lord want to destroy this place and pretty much restart, press the reset button and set Israel up.
Renew.
Yeah, renew, right, and use his people, beginning at the elect, to channel righteousness in the planet Earth, hence fulfilling 2 Peter the 3rd chapter. Read that again from the top,
Romans 10:1. Brother, my heart desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. But they being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness.
Right, and it goes into their outlook. Matter of fact, let's prove that. Is that Isaiah 30?
Get your ears.
Smooth in.
Yeah.
Go there real quick and start at the 9th verse. I believe the point is the 10th verse.
I got you. This is Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 9. That this is a rebellious people. When we start at 8.
Yeah, I
Yep,
would
just
say,
go there.
Now go, write it before them in the table,
Mhm.
and note it in a book, that it may be for the time and to come. Slaki, that it may be for the time to come.
This is
forever.
that time. The records all point to now. Oh, we was touching on it last night. Like it was heavy, the spirit was heavy. We was pretty much considering the power of Yahweh Shah and how tomorrow itself proves that there's a force pushing you ahead
Right.
to a targeted time, which is the kingdom of heaven. That goes directly back to Matthew the 10th chapter, when Yahweh Shah sent forth the disciples with instructions, right? The terms and conditions, if you will, as touching forward and advancing the gospel. And he said, what? Preach that a kingdom was at hand, to look forward to a kingdom. So that's why the very idea of tomorrow, like no matter how much you caught in the moment, 7:30 is a magical moment for you right now. But 8 o'clock looming, and the next day, and the next day, and there's nothing you can do. You little measly mortal, you can't stop the momentum of tomorrow coming.
You're subject to that force.
Right, yeah, you got to move with that force. That
All
force
flesh.
pushes you into next month,
All flesh. That's
Amen.
cool.
right?
Subject to that force.
Yeah, you're subject to that force. See? Read that again.
It's Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 8. Now go, write it before them in a table, and note it in a book,
Right, when something recorded, it's nothing you can do to offset it. It's already in the records. Go ahead.
that it may be for the time to come.
See,
for
so the
every-
time to come is the prize.
Mm.
This is what the Lord is pushing towards. That's why 2 Peter 3rd chapter, as touching those of us who have been brief concerning the Lord's plans, it says we look for new heavens. We're in agreement, we're in harmony with that force that's pushing forward. Go ahead.
Verse 9, that this is a rebellious people,
Right, they're dealing with two Israelites. Go ahead.
lying children,
Lying children. What does the scripture mean when it says you're lying children? That pretty much revolves around the doctrine that you subscribe to. Right? If you don't have the truth, then you're a liar in the sight of the Lord. When you say that the Quran is not the MOTB, then you're considered a lying child. Go ahead.
children that will not hear the law of the Lord.
Children that will not hear the law of the Lord. Now, real quick, click on the word law. Baba Kasha, can we look that up? Because to the unlearned, right, you irresponsible Israelites, you will read that, you see the word law, then you push that on your congregation. Keep the law, the law, the law. But let's see what this word law is going into right here.
So that word law, that word law is Thawara. And it says law, direction, instruction.
Law, direction, instruction. And this is why the prophet was set up to serve as somewhat a spiritual father to you Israelites wandering aimlessly through Babylon the Great and wherever you might have been driven and scattered.
Right.
You don't have a sense of direction without
Right.
the word. You just walking in circles like the state you was in the wilderness.
It's the spiritual North Star.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Mm.
Yep, go ahead.
It says instruction, direction, human or divine.
Human or divine. You have to hearken or hear whether the Lord raised up a physical being to expound on these things, or a divine, vision or whatnot. Right? It's all ordained by one source. Go ahead.
Body of prophetic teaching.
Read that again.
Body of prophetic teaching.
See that?
That's heavy.
So when the scriptures say that these are lying children who would not hear the law
Right.
of the Lord, how does that apply now to those of you who won't hear the prophetic sayings that's on display by way of the prophets?
They resist the vision.
They resist the vision. You see that?
Amen. And it's like the Lord love you enough to tell you about His will,
Man,
just for you to go against it. These are rebellious children.
yeah. See that? So when you go into Isaiah the 30th chapter, the 9th verse, matter of fact, let's go back there.
I got it.
Right?
Isaiah 30 and 9, that this is a rebellious people, lying children, children that will not hear the law of the Lord.
Or hear the prophecies of the Lord.
Right.
See, the law and the command really falls under the testimony of Yahweh. If not, then there would be a conflict of interest. You'll have someone that say, you know what, I follow the laws, I don't deal with the testimony of Yahweh.
Right.
Go ahead. When we found out is the law itself in this lifetime is the Lord's testimony, Yahweh's testimony.
Right.
Because if you're not on board, if you don't subscribe to the prophecy,
Right.
then now you have really broken the royal law.
Because you're not subject to the
Yeah, you're not subject, yeah, exactly. And what the Lord said, what? This is my only begotten, my beloved son, hear ye him.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Right.
And is Yahweh amongst you here physically now? No. But his word is what's alive and well. And this is what we push, right? The Spirit has been on us to push that word.
which say to the seers.
See, that proves that we are carriers of that law. Read that again.
Which say to the seers,
Mm-hmm.
see not.
See not. When the nigga leave a comment, he's saying see not. When the nigga say, nope, I don't believe that. Nope.
Yep.
He's telling us to see not. And we don't even have to mention just the stragglers amongst Israel who might descend upon the camp, right? Or voice their displeasure for the prophet. We ain't got to mention them. Correct?
Isaiah 30:10, which say to the seers, see not,
Mm-hmm.
and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things.
Go ahead.
Speak unto us smooth things.
Right, and that proves that you're not in harmony with the will of the Lord. The will of the Lord is a turbulent time that's prepared. What's that, Acts the 14th chapter? Through much tribulation we shall enter the kingdom. So you saying, no, my outlook is a good job, right? And that's another thing about a nigga. A nigga announced that, right? A nigga celebrate Papa Bob. What's this about? I got a new job. Right? that's holding no weight over here, man. Because we looking to rest. So that's an example of your outlook not being in harmony with the Lord, thus putting you in the category of one who don't want us to see. You want to hear smooth things. Come on.
Isaiah 30:10, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things.
Right?
Speak unto us smooth things.
Right. You want us to present a case of being optimistic about America.
Right.
Right? No, we're here to tell you that the future of this place is bleak. The report is disturbing. Yes, there's going to be a famine. Yes, you're going to witness your little ones' ribs touching. You're not going to have the power in your hand to feed them. Yes, you're going to have marauders, motherfuckers kicking in your door, searching your house with the sword. Yes, you're going to have power outages. Come on up.
Isaiah 30:10. You know what? Isaiah 30:10 in the NLT real quick
Yeah.
says, they tell the seers, stop seeing visions.
Like the Lord is gonna stop.
Yeah.
If you working for the Lord, He gonna keep putting them on you.
Right.
Yeah.
It says they tell the prophets, don't tell us what is right. Tell us nice things.
Yeah.
Tell us lies.
That's it. Which, speaking outside, that lie is not saying, like, someone asks you, what's your government name, and you throw them off. That's not talking about that. Because you could be discreet. You could tell the motherfucker something, you know, throw them off. What's those lies? Present a doctrine that's not in harmony with the testimony of Yahweh Shah. You consider a liar. What's that? Second Ezra's, the 15th chapter. Speak ye into the
Right.
ears. Matter of fact, can we get that one as
Okay.
well?
It's Isaiah chapter, so like second Ezra chapter 15,
Yep, start at the top.
at verse 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy,
Mm-hmm.
which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord,
Okay.
and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true.
See, for they are faithful and true. So the doctrine is what makes you a truth speaker. Our truth is centered around our presentation. It's not our sacrifice as touching, what we bring to the table carnally. Right? No, what makes us acceptable in the sight of Yahweh Shai is we're conveying His words, which is truth. So we speak the truth over here based upon the fact that we expound on the records. We don't deviate or lean towards our own understanding. At that point, you're considered a liar. We read that in Isaiah 30th chapter where the Lord framed Israel as lying children.
Right.
Nigga have an elaborate presentation breaking down why the Quran is not the MOTB. He a liar. Right?
5-hour video.
Yeah, them dudes, man. Hey, hats off to you niggas who was in the class. I believe, I don't know if this niggas, you know what I mean? And you saw me, you'll see me back, if you see me again, I'd like to come back up at the camp out there.
That was it on that one.
This is Jeremiah 23, and I started at verse 16. It says, "Thus saith the Lord of hosts, hearken not unto the words of the prophets that prophesy unto you. They make you vain. They speak a vision of their own heart, and not out of the mouth of the Lord." So just going back, they don't speak according to the words of Yahweh, according to how they feel. And niggas say that, when they go into something, they might say, "Well, I feel like," it says, "They say still unto them that despise me." So they come with a message. It is not a sense of urgency. When they come with, they're not blowing that trumpet of the battle that's coming. They blowing the trumpet of mirth or feast. It says, "The Lord have said, ye shall slay." They say still unto them that despise me, "The Lord have said, ye shall have peace." And they say unto everyone that walketh after the imagination of his own heart, "No evil shall come upon you." And the form of that is them talking about saying the seed that was not going to come, because that's going to coincide with the famine, the food shortages, the rations, the sedition, and the turmoil. The seed is going to be a big part of that hour temptation. So that's them saying that the evil is not coming and putting these people in a dead state of mind.
They love to have it so. That's why they cleave to those camps that give them that vibration. I can still be Israel, but I don't have to subscribe to the vision of the Lord. I can just be comfortable knowing I'm an Israelite. And I can put away the vision of the Lord. Jacob's trouble, the vengeance, the wrath of the Lord playing out in my reality. Jake don't move with that kind of spirit like your apartment might be compromised. Because the wrath of the Lord gonna sweep that shit. Then what happened? But you think it's all about festivals and high holy days, and you don't really perceive the will of the Lord. Complete difference.
Jake judgment. Jake want to do wickedness in the dark, but your judgment's gonna be in the light though.
Yeah.
Everybody gonna see you die greedily does. This is how you got it.
I'm gonna say this, that's the clear divide between what a true prophet is and just a harlot. A prophet is able to see the prostrations of war.
Right.
In order to foretell somebody that something is happening, you have to know the signs of whatever it
Lead
is.
us.
You got to know the signs of a feast. You got to know the signs of war. The enemy coming up to the gates, or you got somebody coming up to the gate. They coming with spears in hand, and they got the battle ram. 10 times out of 10, they coming to knock your gate down.
Right.
But if they coming with the flag, the white flag, that the king is coming in peace. 9 times out of 10, they coming for a matter of dignity.
And who can declare that? The watchman.
Right. That's what I was gonna
Because
say.
they up there, they at the post. So they watching, they like, fuck what they saying inside the gates. I see what's going on outside them.
Right.
Our apostles talking about the sea hill at a time when the only time you saw was on Demolition Man. And now it's just regular conversation.
Right.
Is testimony to the watchman being the watchman. They have a higher standard of vision. They can see it. So they can say, look, y'all know y'all Israelites, that's cool, but the breath is the vision. You guys,
And with the vision about the guys coming with the spears and the battle ram, Jake's like, what's going on? You ain't even listen to the trumpet been blowing?
Right.
That uncertain sign.
Right.
1 Corinthians 14 and 7.
Yep.
And even things without life-giving sound, whether pipe or harp, except they give a distinction in the sound, how shall it be known whether it's pipe or harp?
Right. Back in ancient Israel, you had different sounds for different occasions. So if you give the sound of war when it's a feast coming, you gonna have the people preparing for the wrong thing.
right.
Or likewise, if you have a war coming and you blow the trumpet of feast, people gonna be in the spirit of mirth, and that's what these so-called prophets are doing here in these latter days.
Right.
They're blowing that trumpet of feast, when in reality it's a war coming. It's actually a war being waged on us right now as we speak.
They blow the trumpet on the king coming, but the enemy be coming.
It's an enemy coming, and it's cold because it's a war going on in each and every one of our cities, and we don't got to step outside to be in the war. We in the war, whether we inside the house or we
Right.
sleep. We constantly at war. But you have the prophets that avoid the vision, the so-called prophets who avoid the vision, who aren't able to see the bigger picture that the Lord has in store.
The scripture calls the sleeping dogs.
Right, right, I was up in the city.
Right, you got niggas talking about having fun. Like, let that sink in. It's gotta be fun. But imagine a watchman lobbying for having fun. Then the city is gonna be compromised.
Right.
Come on.
Verse 8, it says, 1 Corinthians 14:8, for if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle?
Right. Hey, get Ezekiel 7:14, you got it.
Yep, that's it. Ezekiel 7.
If I may, that just show you the spirit that's on the earth, the spirit of war.
Right.
See, we should prepare ourselves to the battle, show you that it comes with a sense of urgency,
Right.
you know.
And before the spirit pass, we'll read this. This is Isaiah 8:16. Bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples. Verse 20. To the law and to the testimony, that they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them.
Yeah, that's like when you the security guard at the gate, they check your ID.
Right.
Does the watchman like, what's the MOTB?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
You
real?
don't know what it is? Step aside.
Yeah.
Next, because that's how you know. It's not in them. If they can't see the vision, it's not in them. They can understand that they're Israelites,
Right.
but we're in a time where that ain't enough.
Right.
At one point in time, that may have been enough, but in this time, that's not enough. You gotta know what the vision is or not.
It's like the brother said, it's a sense of urgency behind it. Because the reason why it's an urgency behind the testimony is because our purpose has been restored to us. This is what we were born to do. This is what we were born to do. We were born to do this. So it's an urgency behind it because we understand the will of the Lord. We understand what the Lord purposes for this earth. So it's like a soldier. Once he receives his orders, it's a sense of urgency. He ain't going to lollygag in the barracks, wait to see what other people gonna do, what they're gonna do. Once the general gives the orders, it's go time, man.
Straight way going with it.
We gotta go. You know, it's time to get on them orders, and that's what the prophets are doing. Once we heard the orders from the general through the prophet that the Lord had ordained, you know, to speak the message, that's when we got on our orders. It was a sense of urgency. Not no lollygagging, you know, like, well, let me see what they gonna do. Let me see if they talk about the MOTB. Well, I'm gonna see if they talk about it. I like how they said it. You know, they don't talk about Deuteronomy 22. Maybe I should refrain from that. You know, it's none of that, man. It's a sense of urgency because this is what we were born to do, literally.
Hey, that's why I brought up Romans 10, because you either being reactivated as a messenger, a seer, or you being reactivated to establish your own righteousness. They're the two classifications of being in Israel.
Right.
Right? What
Right.
Paul said, it reign like kings without us.
Right.
You either trying to get rich or die trying,
Right.
or you trying to die and make it to the kingdom of righteousness.
Right.
That's it. Those are two classifications of being in Israel, man.
Yeah.
Chasing the bag, or you told this cross. That's it.
There ain't no in between.
Ain't no in between.
Yeah, it's like you have patience or not. That's an aspect.
Right.
Because that's a consolation
Yeah.
prize. When you go into that word consolation, it's a prize that you give to losers.
Right.
So by taking the consolation prize, you're admitting that you're a loser in another man's kingdom, and
Right.
you're cool with that.
Right. Denzel Washington, LeBron and them. So better losing this.
When you see the vision, you understand that's when you start to look for new heavens and a new earth,
Right.
where dwell righteousness. And that's why the Lord got those men that are reserved. He said, I reserve it to myself.
Right.
Because Jake didn't choose the Lord chose Jake.
Right.
So even amongst the nation of Israel, the Lord chose men who wanted to do certain things in the world, and the Lord was like, no, you're gonna be a seer.
Right.
You're not just gonna be an Israelite that recognizes an Israelite, you're gonna see the vision. And you're gonna set up a vision. You're gonna set up your post as a watchman.
Right.
Because we were talking about that last night. A lot of times we think that the only prophets was the ones that Ezekiel, Jeremiah. Nah, there were prophets. And we don't know their names, but they all had the vision. They understood the vision of the Lord.
Right. The Obadiah here.
That's happening
Another
now.
prophet.
In the cave.
Yep.
And they didn't tell you their names, but they was prophets.
Saul. They took note that he was amongst the company of prophets.
Right.
We don't know their names, but they understood the vision of the Lord
Right.
during that time. How much more so now? This is a critical time.
Right.
That's who Sarah, was it, children struggling in her womb,
Rebecca.
she inquired of the Lord, she went to a prophet.
Right, right.
She inquired, what the scripture say in, what's that, 1 Samuel 9? In former times when one inquired of the Lord, they went to the seer. So Sarah didn't have the jurisdiction to go to the Lord.
Right.
Inquire. That was a prophet.
Samson's mother.
Yeah.
She went to a seer.
King
Inquired of
David.
the Lord. Yep.
King David was a prophet. That's the king.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a prophet.
Right, subject to the vision.
Right.
I got.
Oh, Apostle always say a prophet is way higher than a king.
Well, it tells you that in Jeremiah the 1st chapter, where I have set thee over the nations
Right, right.
to root out.
And the pull out and plug up and the
Key
drill.
word that's over.
Yeah.
That's why we read Isaiah the 55th chapter tells you how as the rain coming down from heaven,
Right.
right? It's just like if you at work, you say, yeah, this came down from the supervisor,
Right.
right? So the prophet being carriers of the word, that means we're above you because we're dropping it, we're carriers of that rain that comes down.
Right.
upon us.
I got it.
Oh, was it up?
Quick precept.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
It's like, the book of Ecclesiastes 8 and 4.
Yeah.
Where the word of a king is,
Yeah.
there is power. And who may say unto him, what doest thou? So so the word of king possess that. So just going back, Jeremiah 1st chapter tells you, the hand have touched our mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
Then the Lord put his words in our mouth, and that will cause us to be over these kings, nations.
Right.
Because we possess the words of Yahweh by Shah.
I got it. It's Jeremiah 1 and 9. Then the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth.
That's the Yahweh Shai. And really, when you go into chronologically, that happened when Yahweh Shai touched down.
Right.
Put forth his hand, that was the Lord sending forth Yahweh Shai. Because when you go into the origins of this very ministry to this very day, is in the record. The scriptures tell you how amongst Israel the Lord called. Can we get that real quick? He chose amongst them. That's when that process started. Physically in this realm. That was the point where Yahweh Shai came on the planet Earth. That was the Lord putting forth his hand. Even though this was an account, right?
Right.
But it served as a foreshadowing. Remember, this is a heavy time we in right now. Everything is a build up to now. So the records, we went into that yesterday, Romans 15 and 4, the things written 4 times. But all those accounts, think about it. Job went through all that just for us. Talk about Job suffered all that
Right.
for us to talk about it and consider.
Yeah, I always mention that Job represented the elect.
Yes.
Going through trials and tribulations,
That's right.
adversity and afflictions, and then the end overcoming.
Right,
Because he overcame at the end. He got everything back sevenfold.
right. Yahweh Shai said that whoever lose,
Right.
right?
That was Joe represented. He let one through
Yeah,
that.
the
No
she
coming
asked.
at the end. Yeah. Hey, to make the point about that end, right? Psalms
Or can I say too before you make that point? Just to add to your point, brother.
Yeah.
In the book of James, it tell you that. Consider
Oh, yeah.
our brother Job.
Yep.
Right? See what I'm saying? So
Come.
Job, wondering, think about Job in that window. He was going through that, really, it was a science behind it.
Right.
So in this lifetime, we can read about it.
Right. This
Oh,
is
that's
Psalms.
it's like John the 9th chapter. Why was this man?
Why was his man born blind?
Right.
Was it because of his sins or his parents' sins? I was said it wasn't because of that, but for the will, the power of the Lord to be
Right.
on display.
This is Psalm 8 and 17. Let thy hand be upon the man of thy right hand, upon the son of man whom thou madest strong for thyself. The right hand is your help shot, man.
That's it.
You got that.
That's it, bro.
So it's Jeremiah 1 and 9. You want to get that first? One the brother got?
Oh, somebody that chose among.
Yeah, let's get that real quick and then we'll go back here.
God, this is the book of St. Luke chapter 6. And I started at verse 12. And it came to pass in those days that he went out into a mountain to pray, continued all night in prayer to the Most High. And when it was day, he called unto him his disciples, and of them he chose 12, whom also he named apostles.
Right, well, amongst them he chose 12. So now, let's read this again.
Jeremiah 1 and 9. Then the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth.
Physically, that was fulfilled when the Lord came. After that prayer, after that moment, he was sent. Remember, he just left from what? Praying.
Right.
So he was sent from that, right, gathering with the Lord, that meeting with the Lord, straight to his men. That was the Lord putting forth his hand, and that was the beginning phase of that maturation, which now is the results of that. Think about it. Right now, the ministry, the brother going into the precepts and bringing clarity, casting light upon the dark sands of the scriptures. It started right here. Come on. That was the domino.
Jeremiah 1:9. Then the Lord put forth his hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said unto me, Behold, I have put my words in thy mouth. See, I have this day set thee over the nation.
Right, see, so the prophets is over the nation. Kim Jong-un, Putin, right, their diabolical plans, they don't sway our presentation whatsoever. Come on.
And over the kingdom.
In fact, our doctrine trumps their plans.
I got some real quick.
Yep, come on.
God, this is the book of Proverbs 19 and 21. It says, there are many devices in a man's heart.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord, that shall stand. So that's what's being on display now. This is the counsel of Yahweh. So the many devices in a man's heart, these other nations. Esau, his agenda. Guess what? Nobody said, nevertheless, that ain't shit, because the counsel of the Lord is going to stand, man.
It was Jeremiah 1:10. See, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out and to pull down, and to destroy, and to throw down, to build and to plant.
And that's why when you descend upon the camp, you see a sign dedicated to destruction. That represents rooting up, tearing down. But on the flip side, you see a 12 tribe sign. That represents planting. You see, because that's the message in a nutshell. It details the rise and fall of kingdoms and empires. So on the one hand, we promote rooting up the wicked, but on the flip side, planting and establishing the righteous. Or even the word prophecy itself, when you look it up in the Greek, the definition there is one who comforts the afflicted, and on the flip side, condemns the wicked, man. That directly links back to Jeremiah, the 1st chapter, but most importantly, it lends credence to the duality, the balance and overall perfection of the ministry. All right, so come on, we got more over here, that was it?
That was no doubt.
All right, matter of fact, you got a precept?
Yeah, I want to read
Yeah,
that
some
real
of that
quick.
hold as well. I want to say that's Revelation, not Revelation, what's that? Romans, the 12th chapter,
I got you.
and beginning of the 1st verse.
Yep.
Yep, you got that, huh?
This is Micah 3:1. And I said, here I pray you, O heads of Jacob. These heads I return, man. Which is, the Lord said he will, Isaiah 1, he will restore the judges as at the first. And I said, here I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel, is it not for you to know judgment? Then it tell you in Psalm 84, 89, and 14 that justice and judgment is the habitation of the Lord's throne.
Right.
What that is, that's prophecy, man. That vision. You got it.
Because really, prophecy promotes justice,
Right.
right? And when you really go into it,
Right.
if you ask us, what's the nuts and bolts? What's the science? What's the end all be all to you guys ministry? Well, we could tell you that it's really justice. It's an attempt to establish justice. Because the kingdom of heaven, that rod of iron, right, we subjecting the nations under our feet is justice. See that? So the Lord is a just power. And he wouldn't be if the so-called white man established a new world order and pretty much escaped with the spoils.
Right.
So you gotta expect justice at this point. If you truly believe that the God of the Bible is a just power, why are you coming up against us promoting slavery? We went into slavery.
Right.
All right, so come on.
It's Romans chapter 12, verse 1.
Yep.
I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Yahweh Shah, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice.
Right, this is an example of that. We present our body as a living sacrifice. These different camps, those are altars. This is the altar, this is a sacrifice. There's a savor going up to the Lord as we speak. Right? Oh, me and Dr. was speaking about that further, about those grounds. And really all of these people out here, they mind represent a ground. But they're not producing a vineyard. Right. So our mindset and what we commit to camera or whatnot, it brings forth a savor, a sweet smelling sacrifice that's well pleasing to Yahweh Shah. Come on.
Romans 12:1, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Yahweh Shah, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto Yahweh Shah, which is your reasonable service.
Yep.
And be not conformed to this world.
What world? This current, this present life. We're not to be conformed to it. In fact, in order for you to come in the good graces of the Lord, you got to detach. What's that? Is that 2 Corinthians, the 6th chapter? Right? Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. Baba Kasai. Hey, you brothers and sisters out there who have committed to Yahweh Shah, you fulfill this prophecy that we're about to read. And in that event, we should all constantly thank the Lord. You should be in the spirit of joy, right? Saying that the Lord designed you in such a way to fit the mold, if you will, of those who will receive the salvation of his only begotten Son. All right, come on.
The book of 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 17. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, said the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing.
Which really go back to Esau. When they say touch not the unclean thing, that represents not making an alliance with the so-called white man. And that can be proven by reading, there's plenty of scriptures, Isaiah 13, with Isaiah 13, he said he thrust through. And we found out that thrust through is going to play out in the form of that jab too. I mean, that karate, right? But also Ecclesiastes 13, as the brother said, you got that? That spirit, come on.
Ecclesiastes 13:1, he that touch a pitch shall be defiled therewith, and he that have fellowship with a proud man.
See? So it said, touch not the unclean thing, that's that pitch. It defiles you, and you say in the same breath that pitch is referred to as what? The proud man. Read that again from the top.
He that touch a pitch shall be defiled therewith, and he that have fellowship with a proud man shall be like unto him.
Right, meaning you're going to suffer the same fate as Esau. You're going to die the death of an infidel. That's not an honorable way to die. All right, so that was it. All right, so come on, we can go back here.
God, this is wherefore, 2 Corinthians 6 and 17. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, Yahweh Shah, and touch not the unclean thing.
Right, you got to break an alliance with Esau. You got to sever all ties with the so-called white man in order to, hey, you know what proved that? The Lord said, he who gather not with me, scatter abroad, and who is not with me is against me. So if you're not with Yahweh Shah, then you're with his enemies. Either or. And that's the simplicity. We bring up the simplicity of Yahweh Shah a lot, but that's simple. I ain't going to make it hard for you. You with me or not? Either or. You got something, bro?
Yeah, real quick, because you quoted it, and I looked up the definition of pitch. It says, something that is thrust in or fixed or pierced.
Yeah. Right, so to touch Esau, to make an alliance with the so-called white man, it's pretty much an act of war against the Lord. Yeah, oh, that's it, brother. It's treason. Yep, come on.
It says, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you.
Right, so in order for the Lord to receive you, you have to, the beginning, the first steps if you're on that road to recovery is to detach from Esau. Why? Because he was set up to block you from the Lord. It tells you that in 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter, the God of this world have blinded the minds of them which believe it not. So the so-called white man exhausts a lot of resources into keeping you asleep. Even when you niggas is searching, you run into check anti-diop or, right? A nigga in a dashiki. That could go back to Esau, man. So he was set up to block the light. Oh, it also tells you that in Psalm 37, where the scriptures compare the so-called white man to a green bay tree, right? You know that tree was set up to block the light, man. Yeah. Everything that you subscribe to, it contributes to you rebelling against the doctrine. When you say, nope, I'm not willing to commit to this, right? That means deep down inside, you hold some type of sentimental value to the so-called white man. Deep down in your mental Rolodex.
It's like going back, it tells you that in 2 Corinthians 4th chapter, I believe, how the God of this world,
Yep.
it said that's the light of the glorious
Glorious
gospel.
God,
Yeah, I'm shining.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Yes, it's shining to that call. That shadow of darkness blocks it. And that shadow really brings you comfort. I mean, it's like relief. That's why the scriptures say, tell us smooth things. The light ain't always, the light is the fire, that's the furnace. You're being heavily scrutinized. You have to walk in a certain way. When the stage come on, the light come on, you on the stage, you have to perform. That's why the scriptures say rehearse the righteous acts. You can't come into the presence of the Lord. You have to throw on a uniform. It's like role play.
Come understand.
Right. You can come in my presence now. Put on a show for me. Act like an Israelite that I remember. Act like when I had favor on you, you know.
Hey, making a point,
Yeah.
the point Barack just made about the,
So like, can I say?
Yep.
Because nigga, take that clip. What I mean, when I don't say act, I don't mean not be sincere.
Right.
You are rehearsing, right?
Right.
Because again, we in this present life, so you're not 24/7, you know, keeping the customs up, right? But when you come into the presence of the Lord, you got to come a certain way, right? You got to come with the Hebrew lingo. You got to, like I said, have on the garments, integrity, right? You can't have that Western. You can't subconsciously bring the baggage of the Western world into this arena. Else the Lord is not going to allow you to come in. You're not going to be able to stand in His presence.
that's why it's, you got it.
Put on as the elect.
That's it, bro.
Right.
That's it. Put on as the elect. What's that? What that precept is? That it's Colossians, the 3rd chapter.
Yeah. That's why I say in 2nd Ezra 7, it said the kingdom of heaven, the path is so narrow, only one man can enter there at once.
Right.
And you know I mentioned this a lot of time. That means we coming in a single file line to the kingdom. That's what? In order, man.
Right.
Everything done in order. That's a single file line. When you in school, you had to teach bid line. Yeah. That's a single file line to the kingdom of heaven, man.
And you can't look back.
Decently and in order. Right.
You can't look back.
Right.
So you have to look at the person ahead of you.
Right. And follow you right.
You got to follow him. He stepped
Right.
over a pebble, then you got to step over.
Right. You know, Paul said in 1 Corinthians, be ye followers of me, 1 Corinthians 11, as I'm a follower of Yahweh. And I want to make the point because when the brother read, mentioned 2 Corinthians 4, he said the God of this world have blinded them, right? How did he blind them? Because they got light too, right? Esau got light too. This is 2 Corinthians 11:13. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostle of Mashiach. And it said, and no marvel for Satan himself transformed into an angel of light.
Right.
Therefore, there is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as a minister of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. So they don't transform themselves too. That's why the Lord gave us spiritual fathers to discern what's really going on, man. You got it.
I got one real quick. This is John chapter 3 and verse 19. And this is the condemnation, that light is coming to the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. Going into that shade. You know, Esau provides Jake that shade where they can be comfortable in darkness.
Right.
So when the light is presented and they have to actually show forth action,
Right.
they resort to the comfort of Esau,
Right.
not knowing that that's a temporary comfort.
Right, and exercising the wicked deeds.
Going into the vision, because you could think that you're comfortable under Esau, but the vision tells us that Esau, that comfort that you enjoy under Esau, is coming to an end.
Right, what, 16.
Yep.
Right, they say, everybody, the sinner shall be had in the vision.
That's what it is.
Like what you said, this is 2 Corinthians 4 and verse 6. For Heavenly Father hath commanded the light to shine out of darkness, have shined in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of the Heavenly Father in the face of Hamashiach Yahushua.
See, in the mind, man, hey, that's the Lord, everybody ain't gonna get this. Matthew 13. Them parables, they said, why speak to us, but speak to them in parables. Well, that light, man, you got it out.
It says, but we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of the Heavenly Father and not of us. That was it with that.
Yeah, earthen vessels, we got shortcomings, we're not perfect,
Right.
but we're somewhat clay, fragile jars with treasures in.
Putting on as elect.
Yeah,
like
put
I
on
said.
every elect, like the candle, right? The candle holder, it holds the light. The light is somewhat like spiritual. That fire,
Right.
that's not something that you can deal with all the time. You carry it, hold it. But the candle, you can make your own candle,
Right.
shape it.
But the light.
Yeah, it's the light, right?
Mm.
Scripture speaks about that too. That it gives light to all those in the house.
Right. Matthew 5.
Right, Matthew 5, which represents this gathering.
Hey, that's scripture. If I can read this, it's
Yeah,
Proverbs 20:27. It reads, the spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching
Yeah.
all the inward parts of the belly.
Yeah. And we know the belly is multifold. It represents your mind,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
But also that belly represents these secret counsels of the wicked. Scripture speaks about right, he shall not feel quietness in his belly.
Oh yeah, Job 20.
Yeah, Job 20 scriptures speaks about how the king search out a matter. See, we understand what this man is concocting. The ministry is equivalent to reading your thoughts. What's that? Can we get that real quick? Because your thoughts is in your mind, your belly.
Right.
Which, let's say Esau, right, so-called white man. He's a body of people.
Right.
Well, your body has a head.
Right.
The head represents the elites. This is what their thoughts are, with their heads, within their head.
Right.
So we have been given the ability to read their mind. You know what? It tells you that too. In is that 2 Kings, the 6th chapter?
Oh, yeah.
The account concerning Elisha,
Yeah.
where it tells you how he was able to expound on what the king said in his bedchambers.
Right.
Right? That's equivalent to
Right.
the so-called white man's think tank. Oh, that's spirit. Think tanks, right? Where they conjure up their thoughts. So we able to read their mind. With their mind, when you look at the big picture, is their heads. We able to tap into their heads.
Right.
We know what they saying in those meetings.
That's why the Lord said He's gonna wound the head of the enemy.
Right, see that? Yeah, see that? Hey, come on. Oh yeah, come on.
That's it.
This is
Yeah, we got spiritual power now. The Apostle Paul went into that.
Yep.
Right? The word being a seed, but it's gonna only grow into its perfection. Because Esau, he think that,
Mustard seed.
yeah, and it must have seen. Remember, I believe it was like in 2007, Esau came out, their agenda was really to bring the Quran out then when you really go into it. Because there's an infamous interview, Dateline NBC, I want to say it's Tom Brokaw, one of them guys. He came out with the chip, hard body, he was talking about it. But that same year in 2007, the Lord raised up the apostles, they came on the scene in the spring of 2007. So the Lord combated them. That was like the Lord read their mind. They came out hitting the ground running, talking about the microchip.
this is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 1, verse 8. Where, therefore he that speaketh unrighteous things cannot be
Yeah,
hid.
that's it, bro. That's it.
Neither shall vengeance when it punisheth pass by him.
Right, that's the destruction and the perfection. The missiles ain't gonna fly by America. They gonna pay that. When you really go into it, right? The vivid illustration, they gonna pass by other countries. It tells you that in Joel 2, they shall leap over mountains. They gonna be heavy. You gonna see people. They gonna be looking up. They gonna be like, damn, all the missiles going, man. Going to the west.
Where they going? Right?
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Where they going? Right?
Right.
Yeah, and then it's not gonna pass. The Lord might have where they go and
That's dramatic.
oh, I forgot. I forgot what movie that was. It was with Magneto.
Oh, you talking about,
X-Men?
But I think he had all the medals and they was shaking.
Apocalypse.
Yeah, Apocalypse.
Yeah,
Yeah, the missiles gonna have like a mind of their own. They gonna be, they ain't gonna pass. You gonna be hoping they pass down there. And they gonna stop. Hold on. Hold on. First, man. Yeah, come on.
It says, for inquisition shall be made into the councils of the ungodly.
See, unto the councils of the ungodly, man. That's their head. That's their belly. So we in the mind of Esau. Yep. All right, come on. Barack, you had one? Yeah, let's get that.
Come on, Hebrews 4:12. For the word of the Most High is quick and powerful, and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder in soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the
See,
heart.
and as a discerner, this is the word developed when once possessed. You're able to discern, not just on an individual level, right? No, this is on a broad level as touching rulers. We're able to decipher their intents. By way of the word, we're able to cut through all the red tape, no pun intended, of Esau, the so-called white man, and now we know his intentions. That's equivalent to you calling the play out before it happened. They run in the sweep, and then it's gonna throw off the whole floor of the offense because you called the play out. And it's gonna cause the offense, if you will, to try to readjust. So that's why you see the so-called white man going back to the drawing board. He's trying to package and present the curriculum in this way or that way. Because we have pretty much searched out his thoughts and has exposed them concerning his intents. Come on, you got it right.
Job 5:14. They meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope in the noonday as in the night.
Yep.
So he said they meet in darkness, meaning these secret meetings, secret councils. Whether they come in, they saying they want to meet under the banner of health, or any of these things, but we know it's always a more sinister plan behind everything this man do. But it's in the daytime, meaning we at the height of light, when this truth is out, and it talks about how one of the mighty works of Yahweh Shai, you read Isaiah the 44th chapter, is frustrating the tokens of liars, man. So that shows we in a monumental moment in history, to where this devil was able to run circles around people for centuries, his witchcraft, deception. And the Lord broke all that up, man, by way of sending his prophets, man. This is in broke in the noonday as in the
What
night.
can I say? One of the strong suits of Esau is his deception, right? And being able to be hid, to be shrouded in secrecy. So this light, that's one of the reasons why the ministry represents the light, because it exposes. That was one of Esau's strong suits, and that's being hid. Once we found out who he is, we started bringing up. It's like once the floodgates opened concerning the Illuminati and whatnot, Esau lost his power right there.
His power was in secrecy.
Yeah, his power was in secrecy.
And once that light exposes him, that's why he gonna have to come down with great wrath. Because now, like we're going into, we done already tapped. Because the vision, going back to the prophets, they are able to record. They know the vision. So no matter what Esau think he's doing to get around the Lord, he's in tune with the Lord's will. The prophets understand that, and they're able to call that out. And no matter how many channels Esau strike, the vision will not be frustrated or disappointed.
I got one.
Yep.
And 2 Thessalonians 2:8, it says, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy the brightness of his coming.
That goes back to the humble beginnings as well. Genesis, the 4th chapter. Remember, Cain said, whosoever shall find me shall slay me. That's pretty much what Scripture said. He shall be revealed, then he shall be destroyed. So that's how we know this man's going down, because the first step is he will be revealed. And you know what, too, that secrecy, your secret's in your mind. Right? That's your chambers.
Right.
You know, you can put on a facade, you can smile in front of someone, but you can hold thoughts in your mind, and you feel safe with that, because that's, no pun intended, you're safe. Yahushua spoke about that in Matthew the 12th chapter. Out of the treasures of a good heart, that's your safe.
Right.
So the things that's treasure, you got something that you treasure, then it's safe. You're going to tend to it. It's going to be locked away. So we have broken to Esau's treasures through the Spirit.
We in the vault now.
Right, we in the vault. We in his mind. You know, we looking at all his thoughts. Oh, they showed you that in that Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Remember that old Rick? I don't know if y'all watched that.
I know.
But yeah, you watch Rick and Morty, it's kind of crazy. But you remember that episode? Where they had all the thoughts of, was it Rick or Morty or Morty?
Boy, I think it was all his memories.
All the memories. They were going through the memories and shit, yeah. That's essentially what we got. We have been given clearance into the playbook. It's like being in the coach's meeting and seeing what the game plan they're trying to execute.
That's spiritual. Because the scripture says the just shall live by faith.
Yeah.
So we don't get what Esau knows, we believe based on faith. But then he watching it play out too. So he watching brothers say certain things, he like, how do they know that?
Right.
How do, excuse my friend, how the fuck they know that? Who told them? Like, they ran up on the apostles. We spend billions of dollars to keep this from
Oh,
y'all.
yeah.
How y'all know this?
Yeah,
That goes in because it's a form of spiritual power now, but it only grows from there, and that's what's terrifying to Esau. That he done spent all this resources and time to build something up for the Lord to crush it like a king.
But that's what's cool about it, because through the Spirit of the Lord, man, the prophets, not only do they see inside the mind of these elites, they're calling them out on his own playbook.
yeah.
That's what, like I was saying, like they have to constantly readjust and come back and try to picture it up some other way, because the prophets are calling him out on his own playbook.
It tells you that, if I may, is that Wisdom of Solomon? The second chapter, he know our thoughts. Or something like that.
I know it's one of them, it's Rock 42 and 20.
Yep, kind. Let's bring it up. If you get the one, whoever get whatever one first. And we get ready to close up in a minute. Because we already know, man, getting on Esau,
Yeah.
we'll be here, man. You can believe that.
This is Sirach
Oh.
42. This is Sirach 42 and verse 19. It reads, he declared the things that are past and for to come, and revealed the steps of hidden things. No thought escapeth him, neither any word.
No thought escaped him, man. That goes on a bigger scale. That goes into the diabolical plans of the rulers.
Right. It says,
You know, they thing is driven behind game plans, man. Strategies. Your neighborhood filled with Fagos, that was strategized. That wasn't random.
right.
You know, the so-called black community having access to, how ironic, the very foods, you know, that they consume that causes their cholesterol to go to the roof. That was a thought and a plan that was executed by Esau.
Right.
That's why we're talking about it now. This is an example of Yahweh and Yahweh revealing their thoughts. And it's been revealed on camera, like we on the rooftop, what's that, Matthew the 10th chapter? We shouting out,
Yep.
he coming. He got this many men with him. He's planning to take your kids, and you know, and it's stuff like, shut up.
It's crazy because, well, it's heavy because the Lord, everything that these thousands been thinking about, been doing, been planning since they've been in rulership, it was already written in the scriptures, man.
Yeah.
The Lord just decoded, he just coded it, man.
Yeah.
All their thoughts, to everything they done all the way up to this point with the missiles,
Right.
it was already written down.
And they came and did it anyway.
They came and did the same, because the Lord, I created this, like I molded you. I made you to be
Right.
who you is. I know, and it's all written in the scriptures, man.
Everybody's subject to the force.
Right.
Even the evil.
Yeah.
The incorruptible spirit of the Lord is in them too, to fulfill his will.
Right.
Man, that's cold.
It's Sirach 42 and 20 says, no thought escaping him, neither any word is hidden from him. Yeah.
Can I say too, just to answer the brother's point, that something came to mind, like in our city, like in Birmingham, it's an actual place where these Edomites rest. It's called Red Mountain. It's actually called Red Mountain. Now it's like, okay, if them devils would have only knew, see, that show you how bad the Lord is. He kept everything sealed until a certain time. They would have never called that place Red Mountain, right? Because now they're placed on the scene of the crime.
Right.
They would have never called themselves Red Mountain, right? Or Red Blooded America, or any of those things that can associate them with Esau. The Lord locked everything down so they could play themselves, they could sell into their role, and then we come out, you know, and say, yep, that's him, and he can't go back and say, no, I'm not red, man.
He can't undo it.
You can't undo
It's great because it's a Edom, Texas.
it. Wow,
It's a little small town in Texas called Edom.
wow.
Yeah, you put it up. It's on Google. I'm gonna get this. Is Psalms 44 and 21. Shall not God search this out? For he knoweth the secrets of the heart.
And how's that being exposed? Through the prophets, through
Right.
watching.
Right.
The Lord raised them up. They got that divine calling to see that vision and call it out. And it's to Esau's amazement.
Right.
Because he done hid everything in the Vatican and all these other places where everything we say and he knows based on evidence.
Yeah.
We know based on faith.
Right.
And that's the difference. That's the faith versus the carnality of the
Right.
situation. The ultimate Jacob versus Esau fight. That finale. Wisdom of Solomon 2.
Yeah, was that it out?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. Oh, can I say too? Revelation the 12th chapter tells you that this devil will set his sights on the remnant
Yeah.
who have the testimony of the outside.
Yeah.
Right? So it's through this word, like the brother just said, the prophets and the prophecies that we possess, that this man is being called out. He's gonna say, you know what, it's this, you know, he's gonna be wondering, who is this keep disrupting my plan? It's him. Go
Right.
get him, you know what I mean?
The meddling kids.
Right. That's it, yeah.
One for these meddling
If it wasn't for
kids,
these
I was
meddling
glad
kids,
with
they drove the mystery van,
it.
you know?
Yeah, that's it.
Mysteries of the
Mysteries of the kingdom.
Outside, man.
If I may say, because we're coming to the climax of this movie, you know, it's coming down to the
Yeah.
leads on the left hand and the leads on the right hand.
Right. And right in the middle of the end of the movie, they always get revealed
Yeah,
before they get killed.
yeah.
And it was him. He was behind, what his name is? That sat behind on Wizard of Oz. Behind the curtain.
Wizard, sweat bullets.
Yeah. Working the machines.
And once that veil was pulled back,
It's over.
Right. Because only the nation of Israel have had that window in the time. None of the other nations have been given prophecy. That was only through the inspiration of the Lord. Even when we didn't understand the vision. You got Jacob get offended when the apostles said we knew more than the prophets.
right, right.
Now the average brother that understands this truth knows more than the prophets back then. And it's a snare to Jake right now, not perceiving that we've always had that window into the future. But it begins with the watching. Because they have that, they sit up there to see it and to tell the rest of the flock, this is what's going on. This is what's about to happen. They about to do this. It ain't time for festivals. It's time for mourning. We're in the time. And that message is being relayed, beginning with our apostles, but it's not going to be received by every Israelite.
Like, if I could get this, if I could just get this one precept, because in Sirach, you know, we bring out a lot. In Sirach 37, dealing with going back to these two classifications of Israelite men, right? You got the regulars and you got the prophets. In Sirach 37, verse 14, For a man's mind is sometime want to tell him more than 7 watchmen that sit above in a high tower. So you got those that's watching the seal. You got some nigga running talking about, hey, no, y'all going off, man. We see the vision
You're
different
looking
down
up
here.
at us. Hey,
Yeah.
what's going on? Going off up there.
Yeah. Them niggas can't even see you.
Right.
Instead of watching,
Right.
they fucking enemies coming.
Right. You can't see it, baby. Well, that was scripture. Our conversation is in heaven.
Right. Yup. Colossians 3. Yup. You got it.
You come on.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 12.
Oh, can I say too? That answer the brother point before we leave. People get all messed up because the apostle Hall made the statement. And we concur that we know more than the prophet, mainly because we are the men coming back as well.
Right.
Right? Now remember, Yahushua made the statement. There's much more I want to tell you, but you can't bear it right now. So they couldn't get it then, but they get it now. Case in point, they couldn't bear the microchip because they didn't know nothing about a phone or technology. How can they bear such a thing at that point?
Right.
Missiles.
Right, the missiles. See that?
The Apostle Paul said that. He said that what the prophet wrote down was for us now in this time.
Yep.
They didn't understand what they was writing.
Yep.
And those men, the scribes and those prophets wrote it down just to understand it at a later time.
At a later time,
The whole world.
Man, that's
Boy,
old,
man,
man.
bro.
Man.
That's why
Breadcrumb.
remember Acts, breadcrumb.
Wow, yeah, he said,
That what it is?
Lord, that
That
breadcrumb.
breadcrumb.
Man, that's
You know,
it.
Yahushua, when you read Acts, the 1st chapter and the 6th verse, remember when the disciples, they met with the Lord and they said, without at this time, restore again the kingdom to Israel, and the Lord said, what? It is not for you to know.
Right.
But then when you read 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter, it says concerning the time and season,
I had no need to write unto you.
because you already know.
It was already written, you already wrote it. Just
So
go read
that
it.
was the time where we knew it. The Lord said you would never know, but now we know.
Right.
See that? We always desire to know what's going on.
Because that's how the Lord works. We always refer to this as the Lord's movie. You know, in any movie you have the introduction, climax, the beginning, and then the end.
Right.
You know, the Lord works in measure of time, basically. This is our 2nd Ezra 4 and verse 37. By measure he had measured the times,
That's it.
and by number he had numbered the times. And he doth not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled. And answered I and said, O Lord, thou that bearest rule, even we are full of impiety. You know, but the point being, you know, the Lord deals in measure of time. So the vision that the prophet saw back in the ancient time, you know, it wasn't for him to know everything we know now. You know, the Lord saved that, reserved that for now, for us to understand fully what the Lord intends for earth. All the prophecies in there 100% entirety.
That's why I said the end shall speak.
Right, yeah.
And if I might say, because y'all mentioned this last night about how we got a lot of Jake and they talk about, well, that's the Old Testament. Oh, well, that shows you how this word, it transcends time. It transcends kingdoms.
It lives.
Right,
You know, it reminded me of that movie, I think it's called The Arrival,
Yeah.
where they was dealing, the chick was dealing with the aliens.
Yeah.
And they perspective of time was completely different. Everything already happened at one time, and they was operating on a different level of understanding of time. That's how the Lord moved. So the Lord wake up the prophets. Hey, this is gonna happen. How it's gonna happen. It's gonna play out. How it's gonna play out. And we have to live it, but it's already written. And the only one that can declare where we are in the Lord's timeline of His will is through prophets, the watchmen that are set up. And they're not necessarily every Israelite is qualified to be a prophet. And you see that playing out now.
That's a word quick. Isaiah chapter 46 and 10. It says, declaring the end from the beginning. And from ancient times, the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. So Yahweh Shema Shai, you know, we can look at the previous works of the Lord, you know, such as the flood, Egypt, where the Lord is going to really make a statement in this lifetime. That's why America's always mentioned. Even when it's talking about Egypt, it's still talking about America.
Right.
Sodom, Babylon, it's still going pointing back to this place.
And everything is a reminder of America where we're going to. Like even rain. Rain is a constant reminder of America when we destroy it. Like you look at the rain, like let's say when rain come down into a puddle. The puddle is the people, the sea. Then once it come down, you see that vibration. The Lord always reminds you, by the way, I'm gonna destroy America. That Lord got his sights set, and that's why the Lord said, who could turn away on he can't talk the Lord down, but he got his sights set on Esau. He's going to visit America, he's going to overthrow his throne. That's it, that's the story.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got one more I want to get real quick.
Hey, the books is open.
This is Second Ezra. Yup. What's that? Second Ezra 6:20. Books are open for the firmament.
Yeah. Yeah, quarter in session, man.
Yup.
They start bringing them vanilla folders out. Like, damn, man, what's in there? You know what I mean?
Lord throwing the book at you.
Yeah.
Throwing the book at you.
Somebody else more of a condemnation, you know, against Esau.
This is Second Ezra 5:42. It reads, and he said unto me, going back to the point you're making about this, same Egypt, same Rome, Sodom and Gomorrah. It's 2 Ezra 5:42, and he said unto me, I will liken my judgment unto a ring, like as there is no slackness of the last, even so there is no swiftness of the first. So it's everything reincarnated, man. Everything. Same people, when they come out, they build the same way. When you go to Google and type in Roman architecture or Greek architecture, it's America, man.
Petra.
Yeah. All you gotta do is type in Rome or Greek or American architecture. He's gonna go back to Mount Sil. He's gonna go back to Petra. It's the same infrastructure, man. Just like in Rome, when you read the First Maccabees 8-15, they set up a Senate house. They set up a president. Same things, man. But that was it.
Yeah. So that was it. Close statements. Hey, so with that, I'm gonna give all praise, honor, and glory to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash.
Double honors to our teachers, the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the fellow laborers out there. As always, believe us. Next time, shalom.
Shalom, DTA,
Soon. It's in motion.
Hey, the wife for tuning in. May y'all buy your mouth shot and take bless you in your houses. Stay prayed up. Hey, the water for all your precepts. Shalom.
Shalom. Water.
Soon.
Very soon.
That's right.